Hello, I'm Mariana Cordier. Welcome to Montgomery Weekend Review. Some states are adopting a post-secondary school program where the education system focuses not just on high school graduation, but on the preparation of students to be career ready. Shirley Brandman, who comments for this program, will explain. The state's attorney's office has created many programs for young people in our community. George E. Sims III, who leads the youth division there, will outline some of the important issues faced by youth. Mental Health Awareness Month focuses attention on activities that aid people who face challenges with their mental health. Jennifer Grinnel from Everymind will discuss what will happen there this month. When school is out in the summer, children may ask, "What should I do? I'm bored." Going to the library may help answer this question. Tom Thomson from the Friends of the Library of Montgomery County will describe some programs the FOL has to offer. So Shirley, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited about what you're going to talk about, this whole idea of graduating from high school and being career ready.
Yes. So I think it's an interesting time when I believe that education leaders are recognizing that we need to change our focus and really starting to focus on post-secondary attainment. So guaranteeing that every student will have some credential that's valued in an industry or will have some degree that opens the door to sustainable and good jobs, and recognizing that just focusing on high school diplomas isn't going to cut it. We know nationally that 60% of jobs being created need some kind of post-secondary degree.
And
so
Maryland, how is Maryland playing out in this? Where are we in the nation?
We may not be far ahead, but we are definitely catching up. So I'm going to offer Tennessee as an example. Tennessee is a state where the state came together to say all educators from K-12 on are going to sit together and focus on a post-secondary attainment goal. They labeled their campaign Drive to 55, 55% of their population having some post-secondary degree by 2025, and then started to look at what the alignment would look like. And they focused on two really important areas. One is eliminating the barrier to financial aid for students who want to go on to some kind of a certificate or higher education. So they focus on helping students complete their FAFSA forms, which are the forms that you need to apply for financial aid before they even
having to do that. That
right?
is a
They're
really nasty form.
It is amazing
very hard
how much that form becomes an obstacle. So a lot of young people, we even see it here in Montgomery County, students who've been admitted to some kind of a college, maybe even to Montgomery College, who then fall out over the summer because the paperwork becomes overwhelming. So Tennessee encouraging students, Louisiana has said you don't get your high school diploma unless we sit down with you to fill it out, and obviously make adjustments because, for example, we do know that some immigrant children might not be eligible to proceed that way, but the recognition that that needs to be part of the conversation to eliminate the obstacles if we want to put all young people on a good path. And then I think the other way in which people, two other things that are really part of this trend. One is recognizing that often young people finish high school, and when they go into higher education, they are identified as needing some kind of more remediation. They're not quite ready to be taking the credit-bearing courses. That has huge implications because you're spending money on classes.
Who wants to take algebra again?
Exactly. Number one.
That would have been my problem.
Totally. You don't want to take it again, and also you're not getting that sense of forward progress, so it just builds up that incentive to give up. And so identifying, using that time in high school, and Maryland actually requires right now that in 11th grade we determine whether young people are college and career ready, and use that last year to fill in any gaps so that the minute they step into any kind of a post-secondary program or higher education, they're ready to start achieving credit-bearing courses. And then some of the trend, and again, some other states are ahead of us, but even in Montgomery County and in Maryland, we're looking at this, dual enrollment and early college. How to recognize that even while young people are still in our K-12 system, If they take some college classes and see what that's like, there's just that sense of familiarity and that sense of, oh, I can do this.
But it's not limited to just like AP, is it?
No, no, no. This is literally taking college partnerships with the 3 campuses of Montgomery College, for example, here in Montgomery County.
Do they go to the college, or are they taken in the high school?
We have both models.
Both,
We have
okay.
some where faculty come to the high school, but we have some where the students go. And the early college model is where literally 11th and 12th graders are on one of the Montgomery County campuses and complete their high school degree and their associate's degree at the same time. So these are, I feel like these are all just examples of thinking differently about what is our goal and our purpose here, recognizing that just graduating with a high school degree for a lot of young people isn't going to be enough. Right.
This is a little bit outside of bounds, but is there any support for the parents of children who may have automatically assumed that my child can't go to college?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're doing any work with the families to help them like understand those FAFSA. See, I
forms,
can't even pronounce it.
You know, I think that's exactly the right question. I know. So nationally, for example, when we talked about Tennessee, the reason that it's a statewide campaign is so that the communication can get out to everyone. Because this isn't just the K-12 students who are going to figure this out themselves. It is their support networks, their family, and others. You know, I know locally there is an effort to try very much, particularly in communities where we have a lot of students who would be the first in their family to go on to higher
go to
ed,
school,
to really open up conversations. I know that we've seen schools where there'll be days when all teachers will wear their college sweatshirt just to start a conversation about this is for everyone.
And there's so many options. I think our kids don't know that there are that many options available.
Right.
Would this program focus principally on getting our students ready for college as opposed to, let's say, the trades or some other apprenticeship type programs?
I think it's a great question. So I think some of the recognition is that there's so much overlap now, right? What you need to be college ready, right? The competencies you need to be successful in post-secondary and higher education, and the competencies you need to be eligible for a sustainable wage job that suits you well are starting to overlap, right? We always talk about the example of somebody who has expertise in being a car mechanic, right? It is not just knowing the tools. Those cars are now completely computerized, right? We're going to have self-driving cars. I mean, just think about what you need to understand in terms of technology and scope to be able to take that job and be successful.
And that is
on
the
that
last
note-
word. Sorry, we ran out of time, but it's fascinating. I hope that program, Maryland catches up to Tennessee and goes forth, because that's super important for our youth. And talking about our youth, George Sims, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for welcoming. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, so many things to talk about, but let's start with your division. And I know you have a program with regard to truancy.
We do. So John McCarthy is the state's attorney for Montgomery County, and our office is the prosecutor's office. So we prosecute, that's a lot of what we do, most of what we do, prosecute people who are accused of committing crimes. But we also are involved in prevention efforts. So a lot of what we do is not waiting until somebody is charged with committing a crime and then prosecuting them for the crime, but what can we do to help prevent them from getting involved in delinquent behavior or criminal behavior.
So that's fantastic, because that's such a, being such a good member of the community, that's commendable.
So thank you. So what we do is that we have a program in middle schools called the Truancy Prevention Program. So that program is currently in 19 middle schools in Montgomery County, and that program is a 10-week program in the fall and in the spring. The graduation is actually coming up in a couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
On May 29th, Wednesday, May 29th at 5:30. So anyone is actually invited to attend that.
So George, I'm curious, why middle school and not high school?
Well, we've studied the issue and found that middle school, certainly children who are not in school, if they're not in middle school or high school, but especially middle school, if they're not in middle school, it's highly correlated with them doing something that they should not be doing that we may end up having to prosecute them for. So I've gone to court many times in juvenile court and prosecuted juveniles of various ages, and we find that instead of being in school, if they're not in school, they're doing, committing a burglary, committing theft, doing something else. So we work with them at
And
that
it
age.
seems like over time, as being now my defense attorney hat,
Right.
that they're getting younger.
Well,
So I can see why middle school might be kind of
better
nip
time
it
to
in the
do it.
bud idea.
I think well, the program is 10 years old, and when it started, the truancy law in Maryland only applied to people under the age of 16. So at that point, we focused more on middle school because most of the child is pretty much in 8th grade at 14, 15 years old. Now the truancy law applies to anyone under the age of 18. So the program started with just 2 schools, and now it's expanded to 19 schools.
It feels challenging because when you think about a middle schooler who's not coming to school,
Right.
there are clearly some adults in that child's life who may not be supporting that young person
Yeah.
in the way to get them there, to
Yeah.
keep them on track. I feel
Like
like here's
I feel like my question was going to be the same. Like, what about the families? Like, how do we? Seems to be a theme with my questions, but how do you all also work with the families? Because obviously, right, middle schoolers are 12, 13.
Yeah, we do work with the families,
Yeah.
and actually the parents are invited to attend the sessions. So it
Okay.
is a group session. It's not just, it's a team approach.
Yeah.
So the team consists of the school counselor, a volunteer or person from the state's attorney's office, a mentor,
Okay.
generally the school pupil personnel worker. So there's a team of 4 or 5 that
Yeah.
meet with the child, meet with the young person, and our goal is to encourage them. We offer small incentives when they come to school. If they come to school every day during that prior week, they earn an incentive, which may be a book, it may be a wristband, it may be a gift card, it may be just something to say that we recognize you,
Yeah.
that we acknowledge you, we appreciate the work that you've put in. And in order to qualify for the program, the student has to have been anywhere between 10 to 15% truant in the year or the semester before. And when you think of it, that's missing a lot of school.
lot.
There's about 180 days
Yep.
in a school year, so if
Yep.
a child is missing 10%, that's almost
Huge.
4 weeks of school.
George, what do you find to be the most common reason that young people are truant?
Sometimes there are health-related issues. Sometimes there are travel-related issues where the family may travel out of state together for a time. Sometimes parents leave work. Many times parents leave work early, and the 13-year-old is kind of expected to use their clock or use their alarm and get
To get themselves
themselves
Oh,
up.
I see.
And so sometimes that doesn't happen. So we work, and we also do work with the family. Question came up about the parents, and of course a parent in Maryland is legally responsible to see to it that their child attends school regularly. And
So
we
the
remind
last-
parents of that fact, that even though we're talking about their child and getting the child to school, legally the parent bears the responsibility.
Right, there's some
for-
implication on them. Also.
This sounds like a great process where you get the families together, the educators, the mentors, and you guys together all in one room to identify what those issues are.
And that's the last word because we ran out of time. Unfortunately, we have to take a break, but thank you, George.
You're
we have to
welcome.
take a break. Be right back.
Someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 88 children is diagnosed with autism. That's a 1,000% increase in the last 40 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Brush, brushy, brush, brushy, brush, brush your teeth. Every day and every night. Now it's your parents' turn. Here's what you gotta do. Let them have your toothbrush so that they can brushy brush your teeth. Good job, you're almost done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. Help your teeth stay healthy. Brushy brush with a grown-up every day.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Mom, can I have $1? I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No. The upstairs closet?
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
And we're back. So thank you for coming back to the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's so exciting. May is the Mental Health Month, right?
It is. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Has been, I think it was established back in 1949, I think actually by NAMI, which is National Alliance for Mental Illness,
Yes.
and then Mental Health of America. And so I'm here from Every Mind to talk about Mental Health Awareness Month and just a few things that we've got going on. First I'd like to talk about one of the things that we do at Every Mind is we run the Montgomery County Crisis Hotline.
So that's very different from the Crisis Center hotline.
It is. We work very closely actually with the Crisis Center, which is located on Picard. We have call specialists and we also do text and chat. So the phones, you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we have text and chat services which are 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. So just as kind of being more aware during the month of May and hopefully all the time is that we are available to talk to anyone. And I think one important message I'd like to share is that you don't have to be in crisis to call us. We take, I think, a total, last year we took about 17,000 calls, texts, and chats, and about 50% of those are for supportive listening.
So for those of us who are not in the industry and aren't familiar with
Sure.
your wordage, what do you mean by not being in crisis? Like, what
Yeah.
are some examples of topics that we
Yeah,
could call?
absolutely. So, talking about our youth and going into college and some of the truancy is there's just a lot more content that our youth are exposed to today, and adults also, between social media and just the constant barrage from news, is that when one of our youth comes forward, even to their parents, to a friend, to a teacher, and says something that may be concerning, maybe thinking about wanting to hurt themselves, or really like not getting out of bed, parents can call us, friends can call us, even educators, anyone can call us for advice, to say like, I don't know how to talk to this niece, nephew, student, anyone who called, help me talk to them about that.
Jennifer, do you get a lot of calls around sort of cyberbullying and some of the social media issues that
we do.
young people?
We do. It happens. I think our kids go to school, and used to be when you go home, then at least school was there. The problem is now is that bullying is always there on some level through the social media. We do a lot of training actually about that. We do a lot of training in schools about social media. Some boundaries around that, but it is constant. So yeah. And one of the other things I'd like to talk about, we have a board member who's doing something called Lauren's Walk for the month of May. So it is, and she is walking 200 miles through Montgomery County parks. And so we've partnered with them. So the motto is every mile for every call for every mind. And she's doing it to raise funds for the hotline.
So that raises a question. So you're not the Crisis Center hotline that's funded by the county. How
Right.
are you guys funded?
So Every Mind, we are actually funded through Montgomery County.
Okay.
That's one of our funding sources, but we actually have multiple funding sources to help support the hotline because it definitely is underfunded, but it is very much used. We are open 24 hours a day. And one of the other things I'd like to talk about is mental health first aid. So as we talk about Mental Health Awareness Month, we've hopefully all taken CPR and first aid to learn some of those basic skills. Mental health first aid is the same concept in terms of learning some signs and symptoms that we might be able to recognize not only in someone else, but in ourselves. And then what do you do about that? So Every Mind offers some mental health first aid training.
Just like you would sign up for a CPR course? You sign up-
Exactly,
Oh,
just
that's
like,
interesting.
we go into businesses, we've done them for lots of different companies, really just trying to get that language, because there's still a lot of stigma around mental health. I think we've made huge strides and we talk about it more, but there still is a lot of stigma. And I think the mental health first aid gives kind of the layperson some of that language, and then to take that, into their own communities.
So Jennifer, would you offer that to an organization or a business to come in and offer those classes to them?
Yep, so we have, I'm not even sure how many. We have a lot of certified trainers that work for EveryMind, and then there's different modules. So there's mental health first aid for youth, there's mental health first aid for adults, there's even mental health first aid for military and veterans, because each of those populations, there's one I think for older adults, there's specific language in each of those populations. And like for the military, they've got their own culture and language in and of itself.
Right.
So
I'm curious whether you partner with a lot of physicians, because I wonder if, like, when you're in the doctor's office, should there be some questions that trigger and information that says, you could reach out to EveryMind.
Yeah.
You have 20 seconds.
Yes. So EveryMind actually partnered with MCPS, and letters went out to every pediatrician in Montgomery County with some basic kind of like start asking these questions. Again, just getting that language out there so that we can start talking about it more.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and bringing that message out. It's so
Absolutely.
important. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, friends of the library, I'm so bored. I think every adult has heard that somewhere along the line.
Oh, they have, and so have I.
So tell me, what can we do with the libraries in the summer?
Well, my daughter, when she was a young girl, she would ask that question every summer about what to do, but she knew what the answer was. There would be reading programs at the public library system where you go and you become part of a summer reading program, which is one thing. And of course, the public library system offers all sorts of other types of programs for young people, whether it's in STEM education, arts, and so forth. So there's a lot of things to do there. So it's not just summer camp, but you can go to the library most any time. So that's one thing for sure.
And there's some exciting programs coming up, aren't there?
Well, of course there are. There are many programs like that that are focused on summer reading and so forth. But for the Friends of the Library, which is the not-for-profit organization that supports Montgomery County Public Libraries, we have programs that are coming up that not just for children but for families as well. And I'd like to talk about a couple of those things that we're going to be doing in the next couple days, the next couple weeks, in fact. This coming Saturday, we will have a pop-up bookstore at the Gaithersburg Book Festival, which is an annual event that takes place. It brings together some of the nation's, if not the region's, major authors there to talk about their books and about writing and poetry and so forth and so on. So we'll have a big sale there, and you can come and see us there, and you can see the array of books that we offer, which we often get a lot of teachers coming there at this time to buy books they need for their fall classes.
Oh, that's
and so
great.
forth, like literature books and so forth.
I think
among
I
other
bought a
things.
book. I was at the Gaithersburg Book Festival last year, and I think I bought a book from the Friends
I
of the
invite you to
Library.
come again this year as well. So it should be a lot
Now
of
you
fun.
have to buy two, George.
But another program that we are involved with, we're one of the sponsors of, along with Montgomery County Public Schools, is the Mosaic Project, which is a writing contest for middle school students. And it's a wonderful program. Middle school students apply for this program starting in the fall, and they write compositions, whether it's essays, poems, and so forth, and are submitted for review by a panel of judges within the school system, students and others and so forth. And the winners of that program come to the Mosaic awards ceremony, where they get a chance to read portions of their work. And that all their work goes into an anthology, which is published and available for sale. So they become published writers. And this year, we're going to have Elizabeth Acevedo, the author who she just won the National Book Award in 2018 for a book, Poet X, which is young adult literature and so forth. She's going to give the keynote, and plus she's writing the foreword for the anthology. So we're very, very excited about that.
That's awesome.
It's a wonderful program, just really is. And last but not least, for all you baseball fans, one incentive for becoming a member of the Friends of the Library would be that we will be offering free tickets to go to the Bethesda Large Train baseball game on June 11th.
The big train.
The Big Train, thank you very much, the Big Train. And it's a great event, it's a lot of fun. In addition to the discounts you can get at our bookstores, which we have two in Montgomery County, one in Rockville and one now located at the old Silver Spring Library, which will eventually be going back to the Wheaton Library when it opens up this coming fall.
So I'm curious, in the summer, what are the hours? Do the hours expand, or do you feel like there's opportunity if we're encouraging our young people into the libraries?
Well, first and foremost, it's always important to check the hours on the website for Montgomery County Public Libraries. We as the Friends, we are also patrons of libraries as well, so we follow that very closely. But usually the hours are going to be posted on the website, and they typically are very, very good, particularly on the weekends, and not just the weekends, but in the summertime for kids to be able to go there, throughout the day and in the evening as well.
Yeah.
And the Friends of the Library also accepts donations of books that people have.
do.
If they want to clean out their houses and they have great books in good condition to.
Oh, absolutely. We get lots of books from just people like all of us here on stage. That want to clean out their house with books they've had either from their professional life or just from their personal reading collection and so forth, and we put them up for sale. They're great collections of different types of books through every kind of subject you can imagine.
The programs that you've shared with us, one thing I love is the common thread that you get. The libraries are just anchors in the community, so you're part of the book festival, and you're partnering with the school, and you're encouraging writing competitions, and you're connected to baseball. I mean, it just really reinforces that the notion that I grew up with, right, which is that the library is just a staple in your community.
Yeah, and what we try to do is to be boosters of that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the public library system that really provides that community service, not just of books, media,
All the
and
other
so
things,
forth,
yeah.
but it's a place to learn, a place to enjoy, a place to gather. It's just wonderful.
And I'm curious beyond books, right? We often talk about the digital divide and concerns that there are certainly parts of our community that don't have ready access to the internet information. But the libraries also provide free access, right?
They do indeed. In fact, you see, every time you go into a branch library, you go to the area where the computers are, they are jammed.
They are usually
And
fully up.
typically there's going to be a waiting list, people waiting in the wings for a computer to open up. And that's for people who are looking for jobs, they need access to a computer, or to families who live in parts of the county where there's no access to, or not good access to, a Wi-Fi.
Well, thank you so much, and for
very
all
welcome.
the hard work the Friends of the Library do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank all of you for joining me this week, and thank you for joining all of us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Mariana Cordier. Please join us next week at the same time.